I've got to move on to the interview with ASIC Chairman Greg Medcraft, who I caught up with between kites. Well, Greg Medcraft, are you just thinking aloud on these takeover rules, or are you actually making a proposal for legislative change?
Look, we've actually raised, we raised a few days ago the issue with Treasury on a number of these issues, and we've actually written to Treasury now. We actually put in writing last night. These are, matters where we've raised with Treasury where we think, they're matters that should be reviewed that would require a change in law or clearly a modification to the law, and that's really then up to Treasury to determine whether it's appropriate to recommend to government.
So can you tell us exactly what you've proposed?
We've actually suggested 3 areas where we think there should be a focus on change. So firstly, it's in the area of law reform, and within there we've identified 3 areas. One, the creep provisions, which frankly, I think really anachronism. They don't really have a policy rationale in terms of somehow protecting investors. The issue about the creep provisions is that they basically allowed you to potentially acquire a company without paying a takeover premium. And to that extent, you could probably, I think it's pretty clear that it's basically inconsistent with the takeover legislation.
Well, do you know where they came up with that 3% every 6 months from?
No, I don't actually. I've been actually asking a number of law professors, and the history of it seems to be quite shrouded, Alan.
What do you think it should be?
We're just saying it should be reviewed. I think one of the possibilities we've suggested is that it certainly probably should be capped, maybe capped at 30%, and probably the increment should probably be adjusted down to 1%. And that pretty well brings us into line with other jurisdictions.
You're also looking for change to the ability to make a non-binding conditional offer and then pull out.
The first area is the creep. The second area really is economic interest versus legal interest in terms of disclosure of holdings. That's clearly recognising that derivatives are a fact of life these days, and really what is important is economic interest, not just the strict legal interest. And the third area, the one you've just mentioned, where proposals are made that are highly conditional, unambiguous, and basically lacking in any detail, and often have situations where they still get around the takeover law, and because they are so vague that they're then potentially leaked to the market, which actually creates unnecessary volatility. The other area is, as you mentioned, your article, if you want the bear hug, which is the offer via a scheme of arrangement. Schemes of arrangement are currently excluded from the takeovers provision at the moment, and using a scheme of arrangement often as a way of actually putting pressure on a company is another area where we think there needs to be perhaps law reform. In relation to those offers that are ambiguous, etc., I think the answer there is potentially perhaps some form of the put-up, shut-up type provision.
What they do in the UK, of course, is that the announcement itself triggers the period of 28 days during which they have to put up or shut up.
Yeah, it's put up or shut up.
Yeah, but the emphasis is on the announcement rather than the actual proposal.
That's correct.
Some people say that you're raising all this to distract attention from your lack of performance in regulation. Is there any truth to that?
I don't think so. If you want to be a proactive, forward-looking regulator, I think it's important to try and call things early where you see a potential issue. And I think in some of these areas that it's important that we update the framework of laws that we have. It certainly is not about creating a diversion. There's clearly been a lot of discussion in the media about some of these issues, and I just felt that we shouldn't be silent. I think it was important to actually express our view.
There is some confusion about continuous disclosure, what exactly should be disclosed and what not. For example, do you think that David Jones should have disclosed that approach that they'd had?
I won't comment on specifics. I think what certainly, as I said, needs to happen is that I think everyone accepts the continuous disclosure guidance needs to be updated, and that is being done by ASIC at the moment. I think it needs to be clearer perhaps when it's a matter of disclosure or whether it's a matter of a trading halt, maybe an appropriate response. But again, back to companies, it's always the benefit of hindsight's a wonderful thing, right?
Thanks for joining us, Greg Medcraft.
Thank you, Alan.